USC football fans. Connor Morrissette, joined with Shotgun Spratling, India Otto. We're here in studio talking USC Georgia Southern. Clay Helton's return. It's tunnel vision. It's great to be with you guys. Shotgun, welcome into town. We'll start with you. How's it going?
I'm doing good. What the hell are you doing the intro for? I'm shocked over here. Not even the host just to steal the intro duties. What the hell's going on?
I bestowed on him the intro duties for today.
I did not get notified over here. I need notifications, a little bit of a heads up. I'm still in a haze a little bit from flying across the country, but I'm excited to be here for the Clay Helton Misery reunion tour. That's what when Keeley and I see each other down on the sideline, I feel like that's what it'll be with Chris Trevino, just because it was a trying time at times. Though, if you look at it, and that's kind of been the debate on the boards, is like he is also the only one to give him a Rose Bowl win since Pete Carroll. He is also the only one to win a conference championship since Pete Carroll. Now, there was definitely some trying times during that. So you guys have had the debate kind of all week about what the reaction is going to be, and that's what I'm kind of looking forward to seeing on Saturday. But I'll probably get a chance to stop by and say hello to Clay on the field before the game and say hello to him. As everyone has said, great guy. Wasn't necessarily the best coach for USC, but I don't fault him for signing the contract because I will sign any contract that any Division I program wants for me to coach that pays at least $1 million. Just letting you know. Whatever sport, I don't even care.
I would do that too. India, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing well. Excited to be here. Talk some football.
Yeah, so I know I kind of took the reins of hosting, but you're supposed to be the host. Do you want to kind of guide the show here and maybe start with asking Shotgun about Missouri State and filling people in on the comments? I can kind of throw it to you now after I did the intro.
I heard from a little birdie that you dove right into rewatching this Missouri State game and kind of see the ins and outs that maybe some other people won't spot. So if you want to kind of tell the viewers maybe some thoughts you had on the Missouri State game, any intricacies you noticed, and just kind of shower the viewers with your thoughts.
Knowledge.
The problem is when a week that I'm traveling. It's also the first week of putting together my participation charts, and the first week's always the hardest. You just got to. There's a lot of building the charts behind the scenes type of stuff that I wanted to watch so much more, and then I get bogged down and I've spent I'll spend 2 hours watching half a quarter or something trying to go back and look. And unfortunately, I don't have a clicker like the coaches have. They can just zip right back to things. At the behest of Xfinity or YouTube or whoever that I'm watching the games on. But the thing that popped the most was what I tweeted earlier today. They used 86 players. 86 players. Now, I've got to check with Chris, and maybe you know the answer to this, but there were a couple of scholarship players that did not play that I think dressed. Maybe not. So that's a little bit surprising. Harry Dalton didn't dress or didn't play. I don't know if he dressed or not. And A.J. Tuatele. I believe there was one more, but besides that, everyone on the roster that was dressed got into a game. And so I've been charting every snap of every game this is the 11th year now. USC, I'm pretty sure I don't chart game by game like that, at least on my spreadsheets that I have, how many players they use. But I went back to last year and looked at it. The most they used was 71 against Utah State. They didn't use more than 55 in any other game. To use 86 players is just astounding. So there were a ton of guys who got their first opportunities. I got 30 collegiate debuts in that game. And that's not including some JUCO guys that have come in, like Erwin Teomi. Probably not going to see the field in an offensive setting, but got in there on the extra point. Great to see that type of thing. Walk-ons got in there. You got Sam Heward in at the very end. There were 16 guys that made their USC career debut. So that's transfers coming in, guys that have been here that haven't played previously. And still, usually it's hard to set a career high as far as your snaps. Now, this is all, not including the debut guys. So you got 46 guys that are making their debut. And of the other 40 guys that played, still 14 guys set new career highs for their USC time. So I got a question for you guys. Who do you think actually played the most snaps? And that's a hard trivia question because was it a backup? They just got more time in the second half. Was somebody that was on? This is total snaps, offense, defense, and special teams. So who do you think actually finished with the most snaps played in that game?
Connor, you go first. I'll ponder over here.
I imagine it's someone who was on special teams, so
Yeah.
not an Anthony Lucas because he played a lot on defense. Someone on special teams who would have played a lot. Tamir Robinson?
Well, not debuts. So that's his USC debut.
Someone
who's been on the
returner. Is Christian Pierce no longer on special teams? Did he get upgraded?
No, Christian Pierce was on a ton of special teams,
But not him?
not him because he's played. He played. There was a game that he played a bunch last year, coming in for someone. I'm blanking on who got hurt last year. I think Greedy Vance. And they went to the 3 safety look as well, plus his special teams. He played 40 snaps. This person played 42. It's actually Jaden Walker.
Wow.
Ah.
Okay.
So that's only because Jaden Walker got in his first playing time against Texas A&M in that Las Vegas Bowl, a little bit of special teams. But it was interesting. Some of the guys that played the most were those special team guys, of course. And I thought one of the interesting things was that they kind of have a special teams unit now.
Yeah.
Of like, these 6 guys are going to be across the board. We're going to use them on a bunch of different things. And it's the positions you expect, backup linebackers, backup safeties. So Jaden Walker, Christian Pierce, Kenny Urlacher, a couple other guys are in that grouping as well, Tamir Robinson. But I thought it was interesting because under Lincoln Riley and Ryan Doherty previously, they have cycled a lot of guys, especially on kickoff coverage. It's always the most difficult thing for me. I spend way too much time looking at kickoffs that amount to nothing, trying to pinpoint on this little grainy video on YouTube or whatever it is, who's the guy way up at the top, and I have to kind of know where each guy is positioned normally on kickoff and who may sub in for him. And so in the first game, I'm like, oh, no, this is going to be difficult. So I like being at the first game so I can just take photos of it myself on each kickoff. But I thought it was interesting they actually kept the same guys out there for a vast majority of it. Now, eventually they took off the couple of starters, like Bishop Fitzgerald's on there, DeCarlos Nicholson is on the kickoff coverage unit because they are the safety guys, basically the safety valve. They stay back. They don't really charge down the field. They're just there to be sure tacklers in case something breaks. They eventually took some of those guys off and whatnot, and they eventually cycled a couple of different guys in. But for the most part, those guys played a ton of snaps on special teams and stayed on the kickoff unit even till the end. You look at someone like Tamir Robinson, like, hey, maybe you want to cycle in a walk-on, or you want to cycle in a different, linebacker. How about, I tweeted it out, but the last kickoff, you're up by 60 points, and he destroys a blocker, knocks the guy's helmet off, and then goes and makes the tackle too, and it's a big thud on that too. Like, those are the type of things that stood out to me, and I tweeted some of these out, is what was happening when they were up by 50, up by 60. It wasn't people talking with the fans. And now maybe there's some of this going on. I went on the sideline, so I can't really give the full explanation on that. But what I could see on the TV copy was that everyone was so engaged. And everyone's talked about the culture and wearing the same clothes and all those type things. But a lot of those things that aren't really a big thing when you take it out of context, but when you add them all up, like, the culture seems so much different. And I think you got to look at Trumaine Carroll. So Bishop Fitzgerald's the easy MVP of that game. Trumaine Carroll might be number 2, though. Just being able to see the impact that he's had with what it was. And I just think that they're in a different place than they've been at in the past. And I go back to the original year with Lincoln Riley. The culture on that team when they brought in all those transfers, that was the thing that amazed me the most about that team. It was most impressive is how they built that culture. And so that's why the next season when you bring Caleb Williams back, I think this is a playoff team for sure, and it just never came together, right? And culture was an issue, offensive line was an issue, and then things kind of build upon themselves. But when you got the right culture, India can tell you, like, your average team becomes good, your good team becomes great, your great team can do wonderful things. So where this team will fall on that, not really sure, but I just think the fact that their culture is on point. Now, we'll see. When they get hit in the mouth, things change. When you're down in the fourth quarter on the road, does things change? or is that when you rise to your training level versus trying to get another notch or whatever? But I think that was probably the thing that stood out to me the most. Seeing Eric Gentry and Desmond Stevens being more excited when they saw Matai Togiai knock that ball out and cheering on the sideline, and the fact they're right there on the sideline watching the play, not 30 yards down the field.
Not sitting on the side.
Yeah. I mean, you could be watching from 30 yards down the field, right? Hey, I'm up here. I'm watching, coach. I can get excited about it. No, they're right there on top of the ball. Those type of things tell me they're locked in. They're wanting to see. They're coaching up guys as well. So those type of things really stood out to me, is what was going on off the field, even before the game, after the game, while things are happening on the field. I was really impressed by the culture piece of it. That really stood out to me, I think.
All great points, and we actually have our first caller, so gonna
call time.
steer the conversation to a caller, but I definitely want to get back to what you were talking about, Shotgun. And if you would like to call in, 512-4-TUNNEL
down here
is the number. Victor has called in. He's the first caller today. Hopefully we won't have any technical difficulties here. Victor, hello.
Fingers crossed.
You are on with Tunnel Vision. Victor, are you there?
Victor,
Oh, we have
where
another
are
call.
you?
So let's see. This is
Sorry,
fun.
Victor, you've been jumped.
We're going to drop him.
Call back, Victor.
The fun part is, because this is the first time this trio has worked together,
Yeah.
Connor gets a new duty as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, he does.
Dealing with the call-in studio over
Tech
here.
Connor, come on now.
Okay, we have a number from New Jersey. It's Mitch from New Jersey. Let's see if this works. And if this doesn't, we might have to go no calls. But oh,
Nah, this is going to work.
Mitch.
Hold
The
on,
chat says
get the
Victor
call.
got
Here we go.
Victor
Mitch,
got shy.
You are on with Tunnel Vision. Mitch, are you there?
Yeah, how you doing, son? Mitch from New Jersey.
All right, perfect. Okay,
What's
so it
up,
wasn't
Mitch?
on our end. How's it going, Mitch?
Hey, I'm sorry, I was over right away. How you guys doing? It's a great game. I'm expecting the next game this Saturday. You said a lot of people got into play. I didn't see Sam Hurd, the third-string quarterback, and Brian Jackson. I think he should get a few more carries there. Even though the tailback's depth is tremendous. It's a great game. Fight on, and thanks for taking my call.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, first
Thank
off,
you,
I got to
Mitch.
say, great to see someone from my now current resident state, the
There we
Garden
go.
State, where I live as well, calling in. So, Mitch, feel free to come over for the games in the future. When the games I'm not traveling to, you can just stop by. Feel free. The interesting thing, mentioning Brian Jackson played almost as the most amount of snaps for a running back. Now, he didn't get a ton of run necessarily getting the ball, but he was in there for 16 snaps, and it was very much spread out across those first four. Everyone had 13 to 18 snaps overall. And there weren't a ton of touches for the running backs. It's just you probably remember Waymon Jordans. You remember Eli Sanders more because they were a little bit more electric. But how about Brian Jackson? First touch of the game. Hey, we're going to throw you in at 3-yard line. Go do your thing. Runs right in for the touchdown. I mean, the biggest thing of the running backs that stood out to me was that King Miller run. I mean, not only do you have a walk-on score, and I had to look up searching through different box scores and stuff to see when the last walk-on. First time in 31 years. There weren't records the last time, and shout out to Chris Houston for helping find that. But it wasn't just a touchdown. It wasn't like, it was 2 yards out. Took it to the house from 75. Now, it is a FCS team moving up, but another thing that really stood out to me, and I mentioned this on a Healing Boys podcast earlier this week, is the speed of this team. Even King Miller. Like, it was separation. He split the safeties and was able to get through that hole quickly. Now, there's a giant hole initially, but then both safeties are coming down. One of them should be able to make the play, right? Instead, he's able to split them with his speed, and then he just kind of pulls away from people. And any play that Tanook Hines was in on, he seemed to be the only guy that was catching the ball carriers as they were running down the sidelines, which tells you how fast he actually is. So I just think the overall team speed has been improved on this group as well. So, another thing that not necessarily in the box score that stood out as well is how fast some of these skill players are versus what they've had in the past where you have some guys but might get caught from behind. I mean, like McCree not getting caught from behind. Now, Missouri State, do they have any burners on there? Got any guys running 4.3s? I don't think so. but still was impressed and thought Lake McCree looked as fresh, I guess is probably the best way to put it, as he's looked in his career. Compare it to Caleb Williams throwing to him for his first scores against Stanford, I think, up at Stanford. And I remember him getting a ball and kind of lumbering in to score a touchdown on one of those kind of leak out type of plays with a bootleg. And it was kind of plotting. That looked like a different Lake McCree running on that one. So I just feel like I don't know if that's Tremaine Carroll and just his development and what they've been doing this offseason, but this group looks a little bit more athletic than the group in the past has looked as well.
I definitely agree with that. On Brian Jackson, he didn't suit up to practice Wednesday, so that might mean he's not playing Saturday. Maybe it was something out of the ordinary, so we'll see if he's available Saturday. We'll try to get an answer from Lincoln Riley on that tomorrow. But, yeah, I definitely agree that the players were looking more athletic. I mean, Lake McCree looks probably the most athletic that I've seen him look in his career. That's coming off of a couple big injuries. So whether that's Tremaine Carroll, whether that's Chad Savage, Lincoln Riley, whoever deserves the credit, the medical staff for getting him back into tip-top shape, McCree himself, tip of the cap to them. And then Mitch also mentioned Sam Heward. He said he didn't see him in the game, and I missed him too because I was taking the elevator down to the post-game media stuff. He played one snap, handed the ball off to how do you say Sean McKelvey's name? C-I-A-N, is that how you say it?
Sean.
Yeah, Sean, the walk-on running back. So he played for one snap, but it sounds like Mitch was hoping to see him a little more against Georgia Southern, which we'll see. It's possible. USC is a big favorite again. I imagine that Hassan Longstreet will get a lot of run in this game, and that would limit Heward, but that's something to be paying attention to as well. But, yeah, Heward did get the one play. He didn't throw the ball. He just handed it off.
I don't think you want to see Sam Heward.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that because if you're a USC fan, you don't want it to be a blowout. I think the two quarterbacks in front of him need as many reps as possible. Gerard talked a little bit about this, that he was surprised that Hassan Longstreet went in at the half. That's only so I went back and looked through my charts and stuff, and that's the second time that's happened in Lincoln Riley era at USC. Second time that a quarterback has started the second half. Miller Moss did it against Stanford in second season, whatever it is, 2022. But every other time, Caleb Williams would stay in for at least a few drives, even in the blowouts. When they scored 66 points against Rice, against Utah State, the backup quarterback still, last year, Jaden Maeva, you still waited a few drives and let Miller Moss get his feet wet in the second half before he doing it. So it was very interesting. Does that mean they have that much more confidence that Maeva's taking that next step? I mean, he looked different. Or is it just you got a true freshman and you want to get him as many reps as you can in the games that he's going to play? Because ideally, you still want to redshirt Hassan Longstreet just in case you would love to have an old quarterback by the time his tenure is over if he's not an NFL guy after 3 years or 4 years, whatever. So you would love to redshirt him if you can. So then you want to get him as many snaps as possible in the games that he plays. So I thought it was really interesting that he got 25 snaps. Maeva got 31 in the first half. But both of those guys, showed a lot of potential and in different ways. So I think you want to keep getting as many snaps as possible for Hassan Longstreet. One, catch up with the game speed, right? That's always the first thing. The decision making, a lot different when you're throwing at, I don't know who Corona Santiago or something versus a D1 program out there. The time, the windows, how different they are. So you want him to be able to process. How quickly does he have to, move from one target to the next target on his reads? How quickly does he have to decide when the pocket's going to collapse on him, when he needs to take off, those type of things. So all those are feel things that he needs to experience that you can't really do in practice because of the non-contact jerseys. To be able to shift out of the pocket and find your
contact.
way. Oh, and then
He sure did.
He's seeking contact. He was a heat-seeking missile. And maybe you can do that against Missouri State. Like, it kind of is like the bodies get a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, too, as the competition level goes up here as far as Missouri State to Georgia Southern to Purdue to Michigan State to Illinois. Like, I feel like it's going to be that little gradual. We think the overall talent level of those teams goes up, but also the bodies, the strength of those, the guy you're going up suddenly goes from being 6 foot to 6'2" and 200 to 220 by the end of it. So we'll see if they coach him out of that, or if they're excited about that, because it's not like he was doing it recklessly. It was third downs, and this guy's like, I thought it was a great point that Lincoln Riley made was he wants to stay on the field. It's a third down. Go make a play so you stay on the field instead of coming off and having to punt the ball. And they didn't have to punt. They had the one turnover where he fumbled the ball, and Elijah Vicona's stomach got in the way of his arms, I guess, as he tried to cover up the ball. But other than that, like, everything was flowing so easily. And I think if you get ahead of Georgia Southern, if it does become a blowout, then you want to get him as many reps as possible early in the season and get his feet wet so that he can learn and then take that stuff back to the practice field as well.
I'm as big of a cynic as anyone, but I take Lincoln Riley at his word when after the game he just talked about how Longstreet's the backup quarterback. He has no college reps. We needed to get him some reps. Gerard, I know, talked about it on the Two-Star podcast, and we had a question about it. Does Longstreet playing that whole second half tell us anything about Maava? Gerard thought maybe it did. To me, it was just all about getting your backup quarterback reps when he hadn't gotten game reps before. Let's be honest, this game was an extension of training camp. This was like a preseason NFL game. It was the perfect opportunity to get him as many reps as he got. And so personally, I don't think that has anything to say about Maava, but I don't know. Do you feel differently, Shotgun or India?
I mean, I don't know exactly what it says about Maava. I think that he looks like a different player to me. Now, you guys got to see him a little bit in scrimmages and and practice, but for me, seeing first actual visuals of him other than throwing a warm-ups and stuff, which is different. The throwing motion is different. The just the way he's going about it, and the decision making was all there. Now, decision making is not as hard when there's 5 yards of separation versus 2.5 versus a half yard of separation. But he made every right decision. He ran when he needed to. I thought he made really good decisions early on in the game. You guys have talked about them throwing, but those were RPOs, and he read the box correctly and tossed it out to Mekhi Lemon. He tossed it out to Jacoby Lane as an extension of the RPO game where, he takes off and he runs a little bit and then tosses out to Jacoby Lane. They got 16 yards or something on the second or third play. Those are RPO run plays initially, but then he reads the box and Missouri State's saying, we're going to stop the run first, right? Well, you throw those a couple times early, and suddenly that's what opens up those big gashing lanes that you see from King Miller, that you see later from Eli Sanders and Waymon Jordan, that they're able to run through, because now those guys that are the edge defenders have to start, not your edge rushers, but your your nickel backs or your outside linebackers have to slowly start spreading themselves out. And when USC spread out Missouri State, they just absolutely tore them apart. So to give one stat real quick on that, looking through the, one of the things I break down is when USC has multiple tight ends on the field versus one tight end, no tight ends, 3 wide, 4 wide, 5 wide, not wide receivers, but just, personnel. When USC was in 3 wide, it gained 10 yards a play. It's pretty darn good, right? Well, when they went to 4 wide and spread them out, usually that was just flexing out the tight end. They gained 15 yards per play on that. Now, hey, there's some outliers, so it can boost up the numbers. But when they spread Missouri State out, I think it was pretty evident. That's when they could attack with ease because they just have better athletes and everything else. And I think that started with Jay Maava's decision-making early with those RPOs.
He certainly looked more in control.
He looked confident, for sure. He looked very confident.
What were your thoughts from the couch?
I mean, the first play, and I was like, oh, God, here we go again, to be honest. But then he looked like he settled in, and he looked really confident. As his decision-making looked good. He looked comfortable in the pocket, so I was excited. But to go back on Longstreet, do you also think that it speaks to Riley's excitement about his development to get him in for 25 snaps? I mean, as you said, it hasn't happened since Miller starting in the second half of a game, I think, versus Stanford. But do you think that speaks to Lincoln's excitement about his long-term development on Longstreet?
It's good that he didn't split the second half with Heward.
Yeah, I think it shows you that they're invested in him, right? That they want, we need to get him better, or we need to invest these snaps in him versus let's let everybody play. I mean, this becomes a dress out game, as someone phrased it, I think on Twitter. Maybe that's the way Pete Carroll, they called it in the Pete Carroll days. It was like anybody who's dressed out is going to get in the game. And that was almost the case. There were some walk-ons that didn't get in, maybe 1 or 2 scholarship guys. But still 86 players. That's
crazy.
Ton of players that get on the field. But you could have easily separated that and given Heward the final 8 minutes or so of the fourth quarter and felt confident. And I don't know, off the top of my head, I don't know how many plays that would have taken away from Longstreet. But I think you just want to invest those reps. And it's kind of like you're playing NCAA football. When you're playing a video game and you got a guy who's 82 and that's a senior, and you got a freshman that's 80. You go, well, put the freshman in and start him because he's going to develop over time, and it's not like you're wasting your time. You don't have to worry about families and all the different things that come with seniority and whatnot. But I thought it was interesting that they did decide to go with Longstreet and give him that opportunity versus some of the other ones like different positions. It was based kind of on positions, and I wonder if those position coaches, how they kind of went about that game plan for the coaching staff. It was like, all right, if we do get ahead, what do you want to do with your position group? To see like Garrett Pomerantz come in before Gus Cordova or Jaden Ramos or some of those freshmen, I think that's an earned thing. He's getting his first playing time ever. Awesome on the interception. Got to turn left instead of right. He should have been a NASCAR driver. He would have made it. But I think it was based on the positions, and maybe the position coaches it can then tell their players like, all right, we're going to play whoever's shown themselves in practice versus we got to get development for the young guys. So it was a little bit of a combination of different things there, and I thought there were some unique differences as well. You mentioned Anthony Lucas earlier in the show. He was basically the only starter that stayed in. There were 2 starters on defense that played at all in the second half on defense. And that was him and Jade Abasiri. Now, Abasiri played, I want to say, like 3 snaps in the second half, 4 snaps.
Did he get a sack? Is that when he got his sack in the second half, or was that earlier?
Yeah, so he got the sack.
Yeah.
So he gets the sack, and that's
pulled him. Nice job.
That was his last play.
Yeah.
Last play of the game. Like, all right, you got a sack, you're done. Great job. Let's get you out of there. But Anthony Lucas was the guy they left in, and so I actually texted you guys, like, find out about this. Like, is it that they want to try to, just getting the rust off, which is what Denton Lynn told you guys, or is there something more to it? Because we saw him play in the second half more off the ball. We saw him line up at linebacker a little bit more, move around. Are they experimenting a little bit and let's get him some game reps. We'll see what it looks like on tape and then decide from here to whether we can use him that way versus just strictly as a defensive end versus we need to get this guy to bulk up and like Gerard would have and have him be a 3-tech or something like that. So I thought that was a pretty interesting thing out of all the random things that were going on in the second half. As I'm charting, I'm like, Anthony Lucas is still in there, huh? And they're moving him all around. So it was kind of interesting to see what they were doing with him. So keep an eye on that going forward of how they try to use him. Do they perhaps run some things where they move him back as a middle linebacker that can come up to the line and attack as a blitzer, do different things on like 3rd and long type situations while still having Braylon Shelby and Cameron Fountain both in the game at the same time and having all 3 of those guys on the field. There was one snap where they did that, where they moved one of them inside.
Did they blitz?
It was a 3rd and long type of thing. So I don't remember if it was a blitz or not, but I remember all 3 of those guys being on there. And I think there was only one snap that happened. Kind of. Some people have called it, you can call it NASCAR, Greyhound. There's different names for it. I don't know what their naming is, but hey, we're going to get all our pass rushers in. So I thought it was interesting that they used that once, but then maybe that's something to look for in the future. Those are 3 guys we know can get after the quarterback. Those are 3 guys we want on the field in a type situation like that. Or is there someone else besides Devin Tompkins that they start having confidence in? Floyd Bacard was out there multiple times on 3rd and long situation. That stood out a little bit to me. Does Jakeem Stewart become a guy because of his pass rush ability that he becomes a part of that pass rush unit? Just a lot of different things were kind of thrown out there, and it felt like a little bit of it was, with that Lucas type situation, was a little bit of was, let's see what sticks, and let's see how it looks in a real game, quote unquote, versus we've got a specific plan of we're going to get this guy snaps here. I think there was a little bit of trial and error out there at the same time, I think.
And I don't want to overreact to what Lucas did, but How could that not get you a little excited if you're a USC fan? You got D'Anton Lynn coming back, one of the highest paid assistant coaches in college football. He has proven himself in his 2 years as a defensive coordinator. He sees something in Lucas that's not just that classic edge rusher. They want to try him out in some new stuff. You think of Lynn as like the mad scientist, and we all remember what Liatu Latu did in Lynn's defense that final year, or his first and only year at UCLA. That, to me, is exciting because they want to try him out in different spots, and maybe he can be a little bit of that guy who does a little bit of everything and the five-star talent. Like, there's just a lot to like with Anthony Lucas because of his skill set and his versatility, and the fact that the coaching staff did have him moving around a little bit. We'll see if that ends up happening in a bigger game of more consequence, and maybe he makes a big play, dropping back. Like, people always have the scary memories of Braylon Shelby going into the coverage, so I'm not saying that he needs to do that, but I don't think he'll be defending any wheel routes. But the fact that, like, you have Lynn who's calling the shots and he's experimenting with Lucas, that's exciting.
Yeah, a lot of defenses have zone blitzes where they drop out. USC now has athletic guys that when they drop back, you might get a little excited about what happens when Cameron Fountain drops back, when Jade Abasiri, like the depth those guys were able to get. There was one, I think it was the screen pass that Bishop Fitzgerald broke up at the line of scrimmage. Jade Abasiri's like 8 yards back by the time that play happens. Like, his ability to get back was really impressive on that, which just shows the athleticism of those guys up front. Even Braylon Shelby last year, like, I felt like it wasn't an athletic body. He had bulked up so much during the offseason that it felt like he lost some of the athleticism, where now it looks like he's moving a little bit better, can bend around the corner a little bit more. So I'm very curious to see, and you mentioned the mad scientist of D'Anton Lynn. I think he feels like I have a lot more pieces that I can move around. Last year was, you got Eric Gentry, we can do different things with him. Kamari Ramsey, I can do different things with him. Now you talk about versatility, and it's not just the cross-training, they can play one position. What all can they do from different positioning on the field? I think you're going to see a lot of different unique things that they could do this year that they feel more comfortable with. And to me, that starts up with those big bodies up front. Okay, we can clog up the middle if we need to with Keyshawn Silver, Jamal Jarrett, Devin Tompkins, and then do some unique things on the outside if we need to, or just different things like that. I don't think you're going to see Jamal Jarrett dropping into coverage a lot, but Jade Abasiri, like, that man was moving from his defensive tackle spot, and Devin Tompkins, I think, could do that as well. I thought I highlighted a play that he actually caused a fumble, but it bounced back up into the running back's body. But there was a screen that Christian Pierce, you saw him navigate 2 blocks. I thought he did a tremendous job on that play to break up a screen. And Tompkins was out there from his defense tackle spot, rushes the passer, sees the screen, takes off outside. Great hustle to get out there, punches the ball out. It just bounced right back in. He actually took a shot from Eric Gentry on that play as well. But, like, there was so many positive things from this game, and there's just so many different storylines to kind of look at. I could probably talk for 3 hours about different things that I saw rewatching it and stuff, but we'll eventually get into your guys' questions. You can ask things, so I'll try to calm down. I know I probably, at 34 minutes, I probably got about 25 of them already in.
Should we get into some injury updates and possible Jakeem Stewart debut? How do we think that's going to play out? Any injury updates?
Sure. So injury updates, not a ton since we were last on. I brought up Brian Jackson, the running back, potentially missing this game because he didn't practice Wednesday. We'll see what that was all about. Could be something, could be nothing. Try to get an answer on that. I don't expect to see Alex Graham, who earned the starting nickel job in camp but got hurt and missed last week. I don't expect to see him. He hasn't practiced. But like I keep saying, we'll get an update from Lincoln Riley tomorrow. Looks like Chasen Johnson will be good to go. Jakeem Stewart, he tweeted out that he's making his debut, so it looks like he'll be out there for sure, which is a big, big debut for USC, of course. Trying to think of any other injured guys from last week. Anthony Beavers, it looked like he practiced. Joey Olsen, it looked like he practiced. Caden Chittenden, it looked like he practiced, but it kind of looked like he had practiced last week, and then he didn't end up playing, so we'll work to get some updates there. But I think overall, it's good news for USC when you're looking at some of the guys who didn't play in that first game. And really quick, before we move on to Georgia Southern, I want to ask you one final question, Shotgun. Did that game against Missouri State change your outlook on the season at all?
No, it doesn't change the outlook, but I think there's a lot of things that can excite you. There's a lot of things that are enticing about it. And those are more so than, okay, the season's going to go different, is that you look at it and you kind of log them away for, okay, we saw what happened here. When they get to different competition, do we see the same thing? Let's compare and contrast. And if you see similar things, that's when you start getting a little bit more excited. I think one thing that I wouldn't change my win-loss prediction as of yet, but one thing that would get close to bumping it one win was the mechanical differences from Jade Maeva. Like the accuracy, you're going to get a lot more accuracy when you're a quarterback and the ball comes from your ear versus when you have a long arm swing, and which is what he had previously, and then the ball comes out farther away from your body. And his was quick to his ear. It looked like kind of like a catcher. You catch it, you throw it from your ear, right? That's what you want from a quarterback. Now, when you go on a deep ball, you're gonna swing a little bit bigger. But that was noticeably different from where he was last year. If you go back and look at the games that he threw in last year, and because of that, I think he's going to be more accurate this year. And if he's more accurate, and we'll see on the decision making. Like I said, decision making was 100% in that game. I did not think he had one bad throw. Decision making was 100%. So that's how you grade out to plus 90 on PFF and everything else. We'll see as the action is more furious, as it's a closer game, tighter, more nerves, all that, bigger crowd,
on the road.
Yeah, we'll see when all those things are in effect. But the mechanics, that's something that should stick with you throughout the season. And if that creates more accuracy, I think then you have less of an overthrow that becomes an interception, or a ball that gets tipped and becomes a turnover. So maybe the turnovers, now if the mechanics stay the same throughout the year, I think that eliminates just 2 turnovers off of just wide throws, mistake throws, overthrow type of thing. So you take away 2 turnovers, is that a difference in a win? I think you're getting close to it. So, that would be the one thing that got me closer to potentially bumping USC up 1 win based on a blowout, game against basically an FCS team.
Yeah, we all think the defense will be better. We all are very high on the running back room. We all know about Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemons. Things that we see that would change the outlook, it's Maeva and it's the offensive line. I think those are the 2 big ones. So we'll see if we can learn any more this week against Georgia Southern. It might be kind of hard. Another big spread. USC's a 28.5-point favorite, so a touchdown less than last week, but still a massive spread. And if you'd like to get in on the conversation, you can call us 512-4-TUNNEL. I see the YouTube chat is very active, and India is starring all the questions, so we can get to those at the end of the show. But thank you for watching. And again, the number to call in, 512-4-TUNNEL. So I watched Georgia Southern lose to Fresno State on my DVR today, so you didn't have to. Just a really ugly game. Georgia Southern actually started out pretty well. They were winning at halftime, 14-13, but that was fool's gold. Fresno State had 3 first-half turnovers. Their quarterback had 2 awful throws that were picked off, and then they had a fumble at the goal line. Fresno State controlled the first half and were unlucky the team was unlucky to be down by 1 at halftime, and then everything got corrected in that second half where Fresno State outscores them 29-0. Georgia Southern allowed 527 total yards, 351 rushing yards. When we talk about the spread in this game, yes, it's huge, but if Georgia Southern couldn't stop the run against Fresno State, I just have such a hard time seeing them stop the run against USC. Georgia Southern was also undisciplined. They had a couple of 15-yard penalties. They had 2 holding penalties that negated big gains. Not to throw too much shade at Clay Helton, but it just kind of looked like a classic Clay Helton coach team where there were periods where they couldn't get out of their own way. I don't think it's similar to a couple of years ago when USC went down to Arizona State and they played Arizona State after ASU had that 7-turnover game and just looked terrible. I think Georgia Southern is just not a very good team, and I expect USC to roll them. This is one of those games where everything is in USC's direction, and overwhelmingly you just think, okay, USC is going to go out and have this big win, and when everything is in that column, a lot of times it goes the other way with the gambling, and it's like a game where they cover the spread. So that's really my only rationale if you're picking Georgia Southern. It's because everything's going for USC, and it can't be that good. But just watching that game, I was thinking, okay, is there anything that Georgia Southern can do to have some success? And I just came away thinking they don't expectedly have any players who you really fear. and they got worked by Fresno State, especially in the second half. They couldn't stop the run. It just seems like it's a recipe for disaster for them coming into the Coliseum, especially because they've been on the road in California now for over a week. It's going to be a really, really tough spot for them. USC, they have a bunch of guys on that roster who are still trying to win jobs, so they're going to be going extra hard, and I just can't see a way that this game is close. Famous last words, maybe I'm jinxing it, but my goodness, I was not impressed with that Georgia Southern opener. That is for sure.
Yeah, but a lot gets corrected after the first
Yep.
game. Well, usually a lot gets corrected after a first game.
They won the turnover battle 3-1, and they still got beaten by 28 points, and the spread's 28.5 for USC. Like, they're not going to win the turnover battle this week, and I don't think they're going to win or lose by fewer than 28. I just don't see it. But anyway.
The biggest battle in this game, I think I said on the Helium Boys, my biggest matchup is Lincoln Riley's play calling versus the weaknesses of Georgia Southern. They struggle against the run. They couldn't stop Fresno State for anything. Will he stick with the run?
He better.
He should.
We said that for how many years now? So, he has to show us that he can do it, or show us that he's willing to do it. Not that he can do it, but and that he has confidence. And I think it's important for the offensive line to potentially get confidence if you give them that opportunity to be able to run the ball as well. Because that was the big, we talked about a ton of positive things from that Missouri State game. I still have a lot of question marks about the offensive line. I mean, looking at it, that first play, you look at it, it's one play, right? But your right tackle gets beat inside when he's got help from a chipper. You got to chip. You can't let the guy get inside after that. You got to force him into the chip and then stay out there. And your right guard gets stood up, and your center gets pushed back, and your quarterback then has to escape. And, hey, he makes it look super simple, super calm. Jay Mava did. But definitely some concerns. Now, I thought as the game progressed, USC beat the life out of Missouri State.
Yeah.
One on that first play because Tobias Raymond comes over and helps out on the defense tackle that's pushing the center back and buries him and hurts him. So they lose their
best
nose tackle.
interior defensive lineman.
Yeah, and then so, emotionally, mentally, you're like, oh, that's not good.
Yep.
And then USC goes right down the field and scores, and then USC gets the ball back and does the same thing.
And again,
and
so
it's, the psychological game there, USC beat them down real quick. If Georgia Southern is hanging around for a little bit, do they get that psychological boost of, hey, we can do this type of thing? And I also think a lot of people are talking about Clay Helton is coming back. Lincoln Riley's players aren't going to be playing against Clay Helton, right? But Clay Helton's players will be playing for him against his former team. So there's a lot of motivation on the Georgia Southern side where there's not the same thing on the USC side. Like, players don't care about outside of, the couple of older guys like Lake McCree, Kobe Pepe that were there. The 96% of the roster that has never talked to Clay Helton because, they're not being recruited by Georgia Southern is not going to be like, we got to win this one for Lincoln Riley against the guy that was here before. No, but the guys on Clay Helton, you want to play for your coach. You want to, be able to win. India brought it up in your guys' conversation earlier this week about, when Coach Gottlieb was going up to Cal. You want to play good for your coach at their old stops, right? Were the Cal players out there like, oh, we got to get this one against Coach G because she used to coach here and now she doesn't? No, they don't care. So I think that there might be a little bit of motivation there. And there's different things that I think I'm talking about this as far as the point spread mostly. I don't think that Georgia Southern has the talent to be able to hang around. And now they did win 8 games last year, but in large part is because mid-majors just get picked apart so much now in the transfer portal.
If you're any good, you're not on their team, with all due respect.
Yeah, you could mention them. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think you mentioned them earlier this week about the guys that were on the team last year that are now playing at either Big Ten schools or other power conference schools. And you go, well, maybe if they had that guy, and that guy might put a little fear, that might be an advantage, a matchup advantage for them, whereas you don't necessarily feel that. And now maybe they have some other guys that are going to make that jump eventually, but you're that feeder program, and usually the feeder program means you've got younger guys that are playing, and it takes them a little bit of time to get their feet wet and whatnot. So I think USC will be able to have pretty much, out of the 22 spots, is there anywhere do you think Georgia Southern might have an advantage?
No, they have an edge rusher who made some nice plays.
All right, then there's one.
But
an edge rusher against a right tackle, maybe.
But
at
he's
USC.
he's undersized, so
Yeah, but you could say one guy that made plays against a right tackle that has one career start.
they have
Maybe.
They have a receiver who transferred from Auburn who made some plays. They have a corner who's decent, but it's not going to be very close.
I'm just trying to give them one.
Yeah.
Is there one position out of 22?
I don't think there's one where I'm like, okay, that's where it is. But maybe it's the Auburn receiver against the corner who doesn't play a whole lot, who's in a competition.
So if
Camden
you're
Brown is
stretching,
his
you
name.
give them 2 out of 22.
Yes, and I'm stretching. I'm doing a big split.
It's not a great percentage.
Yeah.
So I think that tells you what the potential of this game, that USC should be able to win this handily. But when emotions get involved, when, as I always say, with 18 to 22-year-olds, you never know. Or
Never know.
Nowadays,
Crazier things have happened.
Nowadays on USC's roster, 17 to 24 until Jean-Marie turns 25-year-olds, with R.J. Sermon's being 17 still. So,
Just to provide, too, a little more color on Georgia Southern. So the best guys that they lost in the portal, their linebacker, Marquez Watson-Trent's now at Nebraska. They lost to safety Mark Stampley to Houston. Their starting tight end got hurt at the end of that Fresno State game, and I asked around. He's questionable. River Helms is his name. He was at Western Kentucky, played for Clay's brother, Tyson, and then he switched. I thought that was interesting. How do you go from one Helton brother
That's
to the other?
interesting.
But I guess it was the better fit. He's someone who's decent, but again, not someone who you would expect to really give USC a problem. I will say, though, when I talked to the radio play-by-play guy for Georgia Southern, Danny Reed, who does a really great job covering the team, I asked him just what's the vibe around the program heading into the season, and this was back in the offseason. And he gave Georgia Southern credit for not losing a lot of guys in the portal. He said, Georgia Southern has lost fewer players to the portal than any other team in the Sun Belt over the last 3 years, and it's not particularly close. The Georgia Southern coaching staff thinks that this is the year they've been building towards due to what they bring back and the quality of the strength and conditioning program under Coach James Heiss. The players' bodies look a lot different. They're very optimistic in that building, and people around here are coming to grips with the fact that this team is capable of doing something pretty serious. Georgia Southern was the number 2 betting favorite to win their league heading into the year, so they did have some positive momentum. But as you said, Shotgun, with the portal and just with what USC has been able to do in terms of the improvements to their program, it's so hard for a non-Power 4 team with that roster to compete. And even though the vibes were high heading into this game, heading into the season for them, we'll see after that loss if that stays the same. It's just so hard to be competitive when you lose your best players year in and year out. So they have their quarterback coming back. Clay Helton's led him to a bowl game, I think, every year, but it's just such a mismatch for so many reasons that even though they have this positive momentum or had it, I don't really think it matters.
we'll see. We'll see on Saturday.
Yeah.
We'll see the emotions of the crowd. You mentioned a player transferring from Western Kentucky from Tyson Helton to Clay Helton. I'm looking for the backup quarterback from Georgia Southern if it's a blowout to get in.
Weston Bryan?
No, Turner Helton.
Oh,
would
Weston Bryan's their backup. the
Well,
true
Turner
freshman.
Helton I want to get in because Clay Helton's son, who started his career
don't think he's gonna
at
get
Western Kentucky and then went to Georgia Southern. You got to get him in.
If
Gotta
it's
get him in. Come on, Clay.
66-0,
If things
he'll-
get
he'll
really
get in.
bad, maybe
Clay,
he'll
you
make
got to
an
get him in.
appearance.
Got to get him in.
I think he's their third string, right?
He grew up on the USC sidelines. You got to get him in.
Okay.
What do
We'll
we
see.
think of the Trojans cornerback battle? Chasen Johnson coming back. How do we think that's going to continue to play out? I know that that's something that you and Chris have mentioned to keep an eye on, Trojan fans, the cornerback battle.
That's something that the staff's talked a lot about. They want to see separation as the year goes on. DeCarlos Nicholson's established himself as a starter. Lincoln Riley said that Monday, but they're still looking at those other spots. I think if Chasen Johnson was fully healthy, it would be his job. I see him beating out DJ Harvey as the year goes on, and that's just from coaching comments, from what we saw in the summer. You don't want to penalize a guy too much for one mistake, but he was in on that coverage bust the first game, the lone touchdown
yeah.
for Missouri State. So I don't know if you have any thoughts, Shotgun, but I do think eventually it'll be DeCarlos Nicholson and Chasen Johnson. But we'll see some rotation there. Danton Lynn has liked to rotate pretty consistently in his career as a DC, so it's not like just because you don't start, you won't play.
Yeah, and we saw DeCarlos Nicholson last year being in that rotation. I mean, they had 4 guys last year that they rotated pretty heavily. So I think that they'll continue to do that. I thought outside of that one play, that miscommunication with DJ Harvey, that it wasn't physical. It wasn't like he got beat on the play. It just was a mental mistake for the defense between him and Kennedy Urlacher. I can't place blame on either one of them, not knowing the call or anything. But outside of that, there were some catches made against the cornerbacks. They were all hitch routes. And what happened as soon as each catch was made? DJ Harvey picks a guy up and puts him on his back. Braylon Connolly downhill, hitting a guy, putting him on his back. Like, those guys were, I think DeCarlos Nicholson had one thrown his way too. Like, each of the guys, it felt like got one throw towards them. But I think that those three guys and then Chasen Johnson will be the ones in the rotation. Marcellus Williams feels like he's a step back from that. Agreed. We did see him later in the game. But cornerback is a position where you see a lot of growth in season, it feels like to me, from observing over the years. So that's not a position that I would put Marcellus Williams as. He can't get into the competition either. But I think that Chasen Johnson, I've been very high on him since, the first time he committed to USC. That was like three commitments ago. I just really like his tape. He's got the size, the speed. There are some things that he has to clean up. But the fact that he was coming along and coming over with Trovon Reed as well, and they already have a connection, and the way that Trovon Reed talked about him at the media day tells me he's going to be in the mix for sure. And I think likely he has the potential at least to be the best of the bunch. And so I think, or this year at least, be the best of the bunch. And so I think he'll eventually rise to a starter potential as well. One of those guys will get hurt, so you're going to see all of them. There always ends up being a cornerback get injured for a game or two. But DeCarlos Nicholson, how about the improvement from when he first arrived at USC to now? Like, that's another one of those, along with Devin Tompkins, because that's one that you always bring up because, one, the body just looks completely different. But DeCarlos Nicholson, the body's the same. Super long, super lanky, super athletic. And a lot did you look at it and go, that looks really good. And then you watched him play at times last year, and you're just like, this guy gets beat. Like, he's got all the skills you want, but he's still getting beat. He's got to focus on the mechanics and all those type of things. Looked really good in that game. Again, it's not the greatest competition he's going against. It's not like he's facing Jamar Chase out there. But I thought he looked really good. And from the reports that we've heard throughout fall camp and stuff, that he's taken that step. I think just remembering that he hasn't played cornerback all his life. He was a quarterback. Him and Bishop Fitzgerald, like, they're at the tail end of their college career, but they didn't start there, as these, veteran guys. They've been learning along the way, and those are two of the guys that look the best. Is it a coincidence that they're the 6-year seniors or 5th-year senior, I think, for Bishop Fitzgerald, and they're the older guys? Not necessarily, but they both looked really good in the first game. We'll see how it continues to go for them.
Makes a big difference. I'm high on Braylon Conley, too. I think he has a high ceiling, and he's sometimes a guy who we overlook a little bit. Yeah. He had a great scrimmage, I thought, when we were able to watch that, and I agree with you. It does look like he's a little bit in front of Marcellus Williams right now, so we'll see how that competition shakes out. But, yeah, he's a guy who I definitely think we need to mention, too. And you did, but furthering mentioning him.
How he came out of his back pedal to break downhill on that ball was really impressive. I know it's one little tiny play, but definitely was something I noted. I had way too many notes through just the first half. Like, I was like, I gotta get work done. I can't take notes in the second half. That sometimes happens. As I was like, I'll put out my notes later, and I was like, there's way too much here. I don't think anyone's reading 5,000 words, which is what it would have been just on notes from the first game.
I would have read it.
Do you think Trojan fans should expect quite a lot of touchdowns from the receiver room this game? I know a lot of running backs got their feet in the end zone last game, but do you think they'll get a lot of, maybe a Lemon touchdown or two, Lane, Hines? What are your thoughts?
The receivers got to score this week, right?
They don't have to.
I think they got
If you're scoring 73 points, I don't think anybody cares who else scores. I think you want to get Lemon or Lane in the end zone. Wide receivers, they have that persona that they have the ego as a former wide receiver. I'll say that's not correct, guys. So yes, get us the ball, get us in the end zone type of thing. So yeah, you want to see those guys get in, and Tanook Hines was a block away from getting in for his first score.
Very close.
There were a couple of plays where Hussam Longstreet probably could have thrown it, on the short one. He could have thrown it to a tight end, may have not gotten in. But you saw the tight ends get in, and maybe that's part of the recruiting pitch to Mark Bowman is to say, hey, look what we do with the tight ends. When we get you here.
See that McCree touchdown? Yeah.
I mean,
maybe.
I mean, you do look at that, and Gerard's talked about it, but you go, this could look even better when you get someone as athletic as Mark Bowman, because there's just so much space in the middle of the field there, and that's what a tight end has the potential of doing. You know, they brought pressure on that play, Missouri State did, and then it was a play action, and one of the linebackers got sucked up, so there was that huge vacancy in the middle of the field. Now, Tanook Hines was also wide open on the right side, so it could have been his 64-yard touchdown, but a much more difficult throw to the right, crosshash and everything versus a dump off over the middle. But like McCree makes one guy miss and then takes it to the house with Tanook Hines like weaving back and forth. Like I think I described it as a little brother, just like support. Yeah, go type of thing.
That Jacoby Lane block was kind of a big brother, little
loved it.
brother situation. Were you surprised that defensive back didn't like do a move to try to get around him?
I think he was just expecting, like he's looking inside, DBs, they start backpedaling, and maybe the play before, maybe Jacoby Lane just whatever, and that's when you can sneak them.
Yeah.
I'm just going to block you, and then you come up one time and just put it on them because you know there's a screen pass coming to your side, versus because a lot of times those receivers on the RPOs, those receivers just are running takeoffs.
Yeah.
Hey, just get the DB to go with you because it's man coverage or whatever. The DB is going to be following you, type of thing. And Jacoby Lane just has that attitude where he will do that to you if you're. But I loved even more so than that block. I love the block, right? Even more so, I love that he got up
And then kept going.
and then it wasn't a big block, but he throws his arm out in front of another DB, and the other DB like he just barely grazes him, whatever. But it cost that DB a half step. That was the guy that was next closest to being able to get to Eli Sanders. I love the fact that he didn't just because. I threw a couple big blocks in my limited time as a wide receiver, and when I did, I was going to let you know about it. And he didn't do that. He got up and went and made another one. So that's why he's a much better player than I, besides the athleticism, size, and all those other things, that he actually gets up and continues to play, where I was going to be satisfied with my block to begin with. But, yeah, so I was really impressed with that play, one with the pancake, but then the continuation. The continuation is always something we're looking for. Shooting isolation highlights and stuff with these high school kids is like, who keeps going? Who gets blocked or whatever and keeps going versus who's like, I did my job. Somebody else on this team's supposed to do their job, right?
It's the hockey assists.
Yeah.
That's why these games are valuable. Even though it's a blowout, you do learn a lot. You can take stuff away, for sure.
That block will be on the tape for an NFL team.
Yeah.
And it will be, look, he can block, but also, look, he will continue to block.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. India, it might be a good time for us to take a short break and then take some
Let's
YouTube
take a
questions,
break.
if that works for you.
Let's do it, guys. We'll be back in a second. We are back with the Peristyle Tunnel Vision podcast. Again, we're taking live calls. Phone numbers on the bottom, 512-4-TUNNEL if you want to call in. And I'm taking questions. If you guys have any questions, put them in the chat. But we're back. Guys, how are we feeling after our little break?
Feeling good.
Refreshed.
Break is
Let's go.
always very quick when it's live. It's if you're listening on the podcast side, it's a little longer. But, yeah, for us here in the studio, it's quick. How many questions do we have, India? Good amount?
We've got a good amount. You want to get into them?
Sure.
We can.
I'll try to be rapid fire. I'll try.
Hey,
I'll make my best.
I got nowhere to go.
Speak for yourself.
Our first question we've got from Demina. Do you guys think Waymond has potential to be one of the best running backs in college football? And why was there not more teams in on him?
Great question. I do, but of course you want to see a little more. But based on what Lincoln Riley has said about him in the offseason, he doesn't talk up a lot of players the way he talked up Waymond Jordan. So just watching him in that brief action against Missouri State, what we've heard about him, and just seeing his size and seeing what he brings to the table, yeah, I absolutely think that he has that potential. And remember, he's someone who can come back next year, too. He's not just a one-and-done transfer. So maybe if it's not this year, he gets to that highest possible level, it would be a year from now. But I still think this year he's going to get to a pretty darn high level. So, yeah, I'm really excited about him. He was one of the fall camp stock risers, one of the fall camp MVPs, whatever you want to call it. He is really, really good, and I do think he has that potential.
I mean, I asked this of Chris Trevino, but on the Helium Boys podcast, but I can't think of a running back, probably since Reggie Bush at USC, that can accelerate out of his breaks as well as he does. He's just so subtle too with his side-to-side actions, with his jump cuts and stuff like that. That it never looks like it's a furious motion. It just looks so smooth. And right now, I think you're going to be disappointed if you're a USC fan if the first guy brings him down.
Yeah.
He's like, you're counting on him to make the first guy miss, and it feels like that will happen 80% of the time with the way he's capable of moving. How did he get overlooked?
JUCO.
I mean, it's JUCO, but still, that's a quality league. It's Jayhawk League, I think it is. Hutchinson always produces a number of D1 talented players, and I think there's another JUCO. There's a couple other JUCOs in that league that produce a number of talented players. I just think his size at 5'9", maybe people are looking at being a little bit undersized there, and gets beat up potential. That's the one thing I would be concerned about as USC. Running backs always can get banged up. How does he run when he gets banged up? Is there a difference there? Hurt versus injured. When he's hurt and he's still playing, it doesn't look the same, or is it vastly different? And that's something you can't really tell from watching we watched his highlights and stuff and go, oh, this is intriguing, right? You can't really tell that from the highlights. That's something you got to see in person type of thing. Maybe that's it. I don't you're searching for it when you look at the highlight tape and go, there's a lot to like here. Maybe he's a terrible pass protection, and that's something they've got to coach up. I don't know. As far as running the ball, though, it's one game again. You guys have seen a little bit more, but the reads were there. Like I said, the subtle actions on the 3rd and 1. There's a guy that comes unblocked, and he just subtly moves around Justin Taunau to get to a vacancy where he's got 2 good blocks going forward and there's space for him to pick up the first down. If he goes right there, he's running into the defender, and maybe the play was designed to go right. I don't know off the top of my head, trying to remember. But, just this subtle action to be like, okay, there's a little more space over here. I'll just go over here. It's a simple decision, right? Well, some running backs get tunnel vision. I got to hit the hole. I got to hit it hard. It's 3rd and 1. I got to make sure I get there type of thing. No, it's just smooth, calm, cool. And those things, and then the 26-yard run, you see the ability to size up not just the defender that's coming, but the next guy. That when you see NFL guys in high school, that's what stands out about them. I remember I covered Randall Cobb. Actually, student teaching, I had Randall Cobb he was a quarterback in Tennessee. But I remember writing a story about him, how he was never looking at the defender that was closest to him. He was always looking at the next guy, because he knew, I'm going to beat this guy. Now how do I beat that next guy? And that's the way it feels like Waymon Jordan, at least against Missouri State. That's the way he ran.
While we're on the subject of Wayman, we had a really unique YouTube comment from a woman named Dwana Stiles on his interview after the Missouri State game. And she said, I was Wayman's economic teacher in high school. He was always kind, respectful, and extremely likable, a teacher's dream. I fondly remember him working hard and earning an A in my class. His hard work has definitely paid off. So if you just like him because of what he does on the football field, great, but now you can love him for what he does off the field, too. What a great kid, great character that comes through in the interviews. I wanted to shout that out, so I'm glad that we started with a question on him. Seems just like an all-around great guy, and that's why the staff was so adored by him, and that's why they're talking him up so much. It's the off-the-field stuff, too. He's just the whole package, it looks like. They got another good one.
Guys, if you're a USC fan, you better love him up now.
Amen.
You said he's got eligibility. I don't think that eligibility. He's 3 years removed from high school now, so he's eligible for the draft if you
Yes,
want.
true.
Now, with the JUCO ruling, and depending on how future
He get
legislation,
paid. Coming back.
future legislation,
him
though,
back.
he could potentially have 2 years more of eligibility.
True.
So with that, does that make him decide he wants to come back for one more year, based on what USC has coming back?
Let's enjoy the season first.
Okay, I'm just saying, love him up now if you're a USC fan.
True.
In case he's not around in the future.
We've got another question from Facebook. Thank you to all our Facebook viewers. From Mike Langford. What are your guys' takes on the linebackers?
I saw some people didn't love how Desmond Stevens played. I don't really understand how you can totally nitpick after a 73-13 win, but
You're supposed to do.
Any concerns for you about Stevens? I think he's going to take his lumps as a second-year guy who's in such an important position. I don't think he'll be this 10 out of 10 ideal, perfect middle linebacker for USC, but he has a high ceiling. He'll learn on the fly, and he'll be better for it. I still like him. I expect him to have some ups and downs. Eric Gentry, if he can stay healthy, obviously is a huge boon to that room. So I really like those top two guys, but I do think there's going to be an adjustment period for Stevens.
Yeah, he played like a guy making his first career start at Mike linebacker. And let's also factor in he was a safety in high school. He even played cornerback, I think, at one point in high school. Mm-hmm. It's not like he's played middle linebacker for 8 years in youth ball and coming up, and, hey, this has been his position. He knows he's learning on the fly. Now he's got more size than Mason Cobb or Easton Mascarenas-Arnold, or he's probably Shane Lee's size but he moves like those smaller guys. So there's a lot to like there, the potential. But he's going to take some lumps is probably the right way to put it. He's going to hit the wrong gap sometimes. There's going to be some 15-yard runs in there where it's going to be his fault. But I think he's a guy that, having seen him, we liked his high school tape and whatnot. Gerard was all over that one. But I think we've seen from when he got on campus to now, like, the vast improvement that has been made there, and that he is a quick learner to be able to get in and get playing time last year. I think showed you that they liked him, they liked what the potential there, and that he is doing all the right things behind the scenes. So I think he's going to be a different player at the end of the season than he is right now.
Absolutely, I feel the same way.
So I don't think you're going to be like, well, he's making some mistakes now. We got to get Tamir Robinson in because he's got 100 more snaps than he does in his career. Like that doesn't make any sense. I think that whole linebacker group outside of Eric Gentry, there's no experience. So you're going to want to rotate them in a little bit. Jaden Walker did some good things, and also you saw some bad things the same way. Tamir Robinson got out of, had poor eye discipline on the screen pass that went for 26 yards or whatever it was on 3rd and 11. Like, you're going to take a little bit. I think that's going to be more of an issue than the cornerbacks after that first game, seeing what I saw from the cornerbacks. And that was kind of the bigger concern coming in. But I think the linebackers, like, especially early, when you get to Illinois, can Illinois take advantage of the linebackers somehow? Whether it's play action, and we'll see when those things, because those guys are super aggressive. They wanted to go make plays. And I think that's a quality that is very Rob Ryan of them. And so we'll see, can someone catch them on that a little bit? That'll be something to keep an eye on as well.
It's a room that has a really high ceiling, but not a lot of experience, as you said, outside of Gentry. I thought Tamir Robinson looked better on special teams than as a linebacker, which isn't exactly that surprising because he has more experience on special teams. Elijah Newby played well. In the second half, he was someone who was listed as an or starter on the depth chart, but then played more into the second half, which makes sense because he's young and inexperienced and had the position switch. So he'll be another special teams guy. I totally agree with you. I think as the year goes on, that room will get better, but they're going to have to take some lumps.
How about the depth chart?
Yeah, how do you like that?
Remember that, everyone? I tried to say when they put up the depth chart, we'll see how much they actually go with 3 linebackers. They did a little bit with Eric Gentry last year at the beginning of the year before he got hurt.
But then they didn't until the end in this game, right?
They did not play a single snap with 3 linebackers in the first half.
Yeah.
So with their starters on the field, they didn't. The only time they actually went to 3 linebackers is when they had Matai Togiai in there. And I don't know if we can even label him as a linebacker. I feel like he's going to be a slash. He's going to be a Troy Polamalu type, where he's going to play down the line of scrimmage. Talanoa Hufanga, a guy that's going to play in the box so much that you kind of get used to him. And you're like, is that linebacker? Is that a safety? What is he really there? But he's the only time, when he was in the game, was the only time they went 3 linebackers.
And then we've got a question from Demina. Apologies if I butchered your name. Any word on Prophet Brown? Any updates on that?
He's still riding around in a electric scooter, unfortunately, or a little electric wheelchair, whatever you want to call it. He hurt his knee, it looks like, and Lincoln Riley said during fall camp he will be out for the beginning of the season. It looks like it's probably going to be half the season, and then they'll reevaluate, but I wouldn't expect to see him anytime soon, which is a shame because he was having a good camp, and he's a guy who waited his turn and just said all the right things, done all the right things. You feel for a guy like that in his last year of eligibility.
Yeah, I wonder if they assess it at the end, that halfway through the season, and depending on the other guys, it's like, let's just redshirt, try to get a medical redshirt and bring him back. Would you want to do that with all the players you have coming in, based on who you're losing? I mean, there's a lot of things that I think that might be something that happens when he's cleared and ready to go. Similar to maybe Terrence Williams with basketball. Like Terrence Williams could have potentially come back at the end of the season, but then you're giving up that year of eligibility. So I think that's something that they probably will assess with him when he's ready to go physically.
We've got a question from Blackie Chan Gaming. Do you think USC will have a 100-yard rusher and a 100-yard receiver this weekend?
Mekhi Lemon got pretty close to being the 100-yard receiver, and then the rusher, they just spread it out so much. King Miller almost got there in one carry.
Sure.
I'll say yes, but it's one of those games where you like they're going to win by a lot and they might not. But sure, I'll say yes.
Then I'll go no. I'll spread it out so much that everyone will have 99.
Yes. India?
I'll go
Thoughts?
yes.
Okay.
I'll go yes.
Get your
We've
prop bets in.
Yeah.
We've got another question from Blackie Chan Gaming, a couple from him. Who do you think gets the first touchdown, Lemon or Lane, from the receivers?
I think Lemon just because he's going to get targeted more, but obviously Lane has proven to be the touchdown guy from last year, but Lemon is my pick.
I pick Lane.
now?
I'm going Lane.
Yeah, Lane, because he's a bigger red zone target.
Yep.
I think that they'll get down
12
there.
touchdowns last year, yeah.
Like they could easily, on Waymon Jordan getting down to the 5 or Eli Sanders getting down to 3, have taken a shot real quick, but they just went because they knew they had the advantage.
Exactly.
They're like, that's why they went with tempo on those 2 plays both times. Is like the Eli Sanders the Waymon Jordan is we run the same play, just run the same play. You know, we're bigger than them, we're stronger than them. We'll get in the end zone, and that's exactly what they did. But I think if you strategically are trying to get one of those guys, that's when you go, okay, we got first and goal from the 5. Let's give Lemon or Lane a shot here. So, bigger red zone target. I'll take Lane.
And then we've got last question from Blackie Chan Gaming. Who gets the first sack, Jakeem Stewart or Anthony Lucas?
Whew.
I'm going Lucas.
Okay. That's a tough one. I guess Lucas because he's a defensive end, but Stewart could line up there too. I don't know. That's a hard one. I have no idea. We'd have to ask Danton Lynn who's going to be playing more and who's going to be more aggressive. But I think Lucas, right? Stewart's probably not going to start. I imagine Lucas would play more, but maybe they want Stewart to play a lot in the second half. I have no idea.
I mean, neither one of them has a career sack.
Yeah, but one's played 0 games.
Right. I'm going to experience
I'm
over.
going to go with Lucas because I actually said before the season I put the over-under on 10 snaps for his first career sack. Because I thought he was going to get one immediately. Like, he's been waiting so long. It's going to happen to Missouri State. He wasn't necessarily close at any point in that. I think he was coming around the edge on the one that Cam Fountain got, the first one. He's the one that kind of helped force the pocket up. But I think there's so much more going to be so many more opportunities this year because he won't be the only one pass rushing. Whereas last year, that's what it felt like at times when he was out there early in the season. No one else was really getting the push. I mean, we saw from Tompkins, Silver, Jamal Jarrett, just the ability to push that center back 3 or 4 yards. Now, again, FCS opponent, even though they've moved up to FBS. So we'll see as the competition continues to get better if they can consistently do that. But I think that's why the pass rush is going to be better this year because you can actually do stuff in the middle as well to force quarterbacks not having that chance to step up in the pocket and get away from the outside rush.
And then piggybacking off of Jakeem Stewart's debut, Mick Phantom asked, what do you guys think Jakeem Stewart's first game is going to play out? How do you think it's going to play out?
So when we watched him this summer, he looked amazing against the backups, and he looked like he belonged, but he looked like a guy still adjusting to college football against the ones. So I don't think that's exactly a huge surprise. I hope he plays into the second half so you can see some of that Thanos, Jakeem Stewart dominance if Georgia Southern ends up putting in their 2s. And that's not to say he won't make a play against the 1s, but like he really stood out against the backups, and I think as time goes on, he'll obviously get better against the 1s. So we'll see kind of with that in mind how he plays, but he's certainly capable of making a play against the non-power 4 offensive linemen. So I'm looking forward to seeing how his debut goes. I see him making some plays in the second half if he continues to play, but I by all means, I don't want to rule out anything with him in the first half. He could certainly pop here or there, but look for him to be more productive in the second half, I'd say.
Chris has described it as, when you guys have seen them, is that you won't notice him for a while, and then suddenly he just destroys things. You're like, whoa, where'd this come from? Which is what you expect from a freshman. He's probably the defensive freshman I've been most excited to see play since probably
Since Taka Curtis.
no. Since Adoree probably, and that was based in part off his return ability, seeing full practices at times, just being like, this guy's amazing. So I think as far as a defensive one, that's the first name that pops up. So that's 10, more than a decade, I think. So I'm excited for Jakeem Stewart. I've been very, very high on Jakeem Stewart. I know there's a huge learning curve because he's got, 12 games of experience in the last 4 years, basically. Because he didn't play much in 8th grade either. Like, I think he had something happen with his 8th grade season as well. So didn't play 9th grade, played his sophomore year, didn't play his 11th grade year, skipped his senior year. So it's been a long time, and I think he's going to be super psyched. I mean, you said he tweeted about it, so he is super psyched.
He's one confident kid, too. Like, he certainly looks like he's ready to go. So I'm excited, too, and I hope he gets 3 sacks in the first half.
That would
what
be
a
awesome.
great story that would be.
That would be awesome. We got a question from a couple more. Thack21. Does the Big Ten have rules for how often you need to update your depth chart? It feels useless when they update it and then don't even use it, LOL.
There are rules for that availability report, but not for the depth chart.
Yeah, and that's only because of gambling. So, no, depth chart doesn't have to be updated. You don't have to put one out. Michigan doesn't put one out.
North Carolina, Bill Belichick.
Oh, did he not do it either? What about? But did you see New Mexico when they played Michigan? Putting
Freaking
out
Michigan. Why do they do that? They don't want to hurt people's feelings?
because coaches are paranoid, basically. It's why practices have slowly become closed off more and more and more across college football, because as more money is involved, then people become more and more paranoid. Someone is going to be spying on me. Someone is going to create an advantage, and
Someone's going to be spying on me.
it's
Michigan.
Exactly.
I don't know. They were spying on everyone
I know.
else.
So then, if you're a coach, you go look what we're already doing, or
Look what we're doing.
so
Crap,
someone
they're
else
gonna
is
be
probably
doing
going to be
that
doing it too, right? So yeah, they just become paranoid, and they don't want to let anything leak out because everything can be an advantage. Versus there are two thoughts that you can have.
Yeah.
And you can be Deshaun Foster, or you can be Pete Carroll, and Pete Carroll would tell people, I don't care if they come see it. We're still going to beat them with it. Doesn't matter.
Love that mindset, but that's a bygone era, it seems like.
True.
And then we've got 3 more questions from Andrew Jaramillo. Is Michigan vulnerable? Trojans take a surprise W. Thoughts on looking ahead at that game?
I think I had USC winning that game at the start of the year. I just have a hard time imagining a true freshman quarterback coming into the Coliseum and winning. But, of course, we'll see what happens with injuries and just as the year goes on, what both teams look like. That, to me, though, was always a winnable game for USC. Michigan, I think their fans think they're way better than they actually are. They're going through a little bit of some turnover after losing all those defensive linemen last year. Like, that has to take some effect. So I'm not totally afraid of them. I'm more afraid of other teams on the schedule.
Yeah, I don't think it would be a surprise W. There's definitely intrigue in that matchup, one just because of the classic nature of those two teams. But USC should have an advantage. They're coming off a bye going into that game. They're facing a true freshman quarterback. That'll be the first time he's in that huge environment. I don't know their schedule.
Oklahoma this week. At Oklahoma.
All right, we'll see how he does it. I think I'll tell you a lot how he does. I think he's the real deal.
Yeah, me too.
I saw him at a couple camps and stuff.
Me
and
too.
Go, okay, that stands out.
Still.
But on the road, environment, all that type of stuff. We'll see how he does this weekend and then how it progresses from there. But you mentioned I didn't get a chance to watch this New Mexico game, but there are a ton of things they are replacing. With Will Johnson on the outside as a true number 1 cornerback that can shut down one side, as well as the defensive lineman. There's questions there with the defense. Don't think it would be a surprise. Think it could be a good game. We'll see. It should be a great turnout. It should be a really fun game.
And then we've talked about this a little bit already on the podcast. But do you think we assume that we'll see Longstreet again this week? But how many touches do you think he'll get? How many snaps?
I think you follow the same game plan as last week, if possible. You get him as much as you can.
Think that'll be at halftime?
I mean, that will depend on the game. Like, if the game is the same score, do you treat Missouri State? I mean, do you treat Georgia Southern any different than Missouri State? I thought I was like 42-10. Like, I guess USC's getting the ball back first as well. But I was a little surprised by it. Oh, they're bringing out because it was just him. And I thought maybe you start him with the first team offensive lineman, maybe the first drive, like give him a little bit of, okay, you got a little bit better protection to begin with. But no, just through all it's kind of told you the mindset of what they thought of Missouri State at that point.
Extension of training camp.
Yeah. And so we'll see how this game kind of plays out, because a lot of things can be different. Ball bounces a different way, fumble. You think of, it happened later in the game, but that ball that hits off the Missouri State player on the punt return, if that hits a USC player, because there's two guys right there, if it's 6 inches one way, then it bounces and it's a fumble and the other team gets it, versus hitting a Missouri State player and it's kind of, you can do whatever you want. It's kind of like a balk in baseball. But that could be a turnover versus USC getting the ball back and they score, on that drive. So, it could be, that's a 14-point swing. That's the game of football. It's not a round ball. It bounces weird.
And then the last question, Shotgun, this is for you, from Jeff. What road games are you going to?
I'll be at everything to the east.
Which ones are you not going to?
We'll see later in the season. In November, we're kind of following the same pattern as last year. It was, we'll do everything to the east. I did the Penn State game at home. So I'm doing, one early season game so we can get, photos of everybody and hopefully everybody playing in this game. And then do all the East Coast, and then we'll reassess kind of halfway through the season, because last year it was no need to go to Washington, no need to go to any of the games late in the season, because it didn't validate spending the money when the team wasn't very good, and there was less interest at the end of the season than there was early in the season, coming off an LSU win and stuff. So we'll see. I'll be at Purdue, I'll be at Notre Dame, or at Illinois, Notre Dame, and Nebraska. So Nebraska on the day after Halloween. That should be a pretty interesting one. Though I'm very disappointed because IMG is coming up to the Hunt School, which is 40 minutes away from me.
Kenai Pepe
and
Luke
Cola
Wafel.
J against Luke Wafel. So I'm going to have to hire somebody to go shoot that one for us or something.
Maybe you stay back? No.
No chance. I've never been to Nebraska. I want to experience the environment. I've been taking shots from Oregon people because I told them it wasn't as great as everyone said. It was good, but I thought it was going to be, rocking. And I thought Oregon State was better when we went up there and it was half a stadium. I don't know how, what happened in that game, but that place was going crazy. And there, from the moment we arrived, players flipping off people in the stands.
Wow,
a lot of sexual innuendo signs out there. All kinds of stuff. It's a fun environment.
Well, to the viewers, if you're watching, the button disappeared for me to take down this question. So, Jeff, your question is going to stay up. But should we get into our score predictions for the game?
Absolutely.
That was our last question.
Absolutely. I guess I can start. I pulled mine up here. I sent it to Ryan. So I have USC winning 56-14. I just think it's an extension of what we saw last week, where USC is just night and day better than this opponent. Watching that Fresno State game for Georgia Southern didn't exactly give me a lot of confidence that they can come in and keep it competitive. Remember, they were up by 1 at halftime against Fresno State, but that's because they won the turnover battle 3-1 in that first half. I don't expect that to happen against USC. They allowed 7.8 yards per rush against Fresno State. USC should probably be somewhere in that same neighborhood, and that should lead to a big win. So I have them 56-14.
I want to say that this game, it's 4 touchdowns.
It's a lot of touchdowns.
And it's a group of 5 team that won 8 games last year. So I want to say it would be closer, but also with the track record of Clay Helton, and there's things that could make the emotions of it and all that for their players trying to play for him, because he's a likable coach for the players, so they're going to want to play for him. But also I know his track record, and I've seen him get blown out in big games, and it doesn't, it goes bad quick. It doesn't, just kind of hang around, and you feel like, oh, they might there weren't a lot of upset games where they just played way over their head. There was the Washington game where Sam Darnold won at Washington with Adoree Jackson, I mentioned earlier, having a couple of picks. There was, I guess the Rose Bowl. It wasn't necessarily there's probably a pick 'em or Penn State was favored by a little bit, but there weren't many upsets. It wasn't like he went on the road and had these big games, and that was his calling card or anything. So what would lead me to believe that a team with inferior athletes than what he had at USC is going to be able to do that against USC? I think I would.
He's
cover
also
the spread.
20-20. Like it's not like he's lighting the world on fire against everyone else down there.
It's
too.
true. And I have a cousin that went to Georgia Southern, so since I went to USC, I gotta call her up and place a wager of some sort on this game, or something there, a little family wager. But no, so it'll be interesting. I mean, they have some culture down there. Statesboro, they used to be a really, really good D1AA school before it changed to FCS. They made the jump. They used to compete for national championships, running the triple option all the time with the quarter.
That'd be fun if they still did that.
The coach that went to was it Paul Johnson that went to Georgia Tech?
Mm-hmm.
So he was at Georgia Southern before that. So I know a ton about that program, the history and lineage there down in Statesboro, but I just don't see it. I think USC should be able to win this, and maybe turnovers can be the thing that keeps it a little bit closer. But Vegas is really good, and I'm feeling like it's going to be right around that.
Yeah.
And especially since they said 28.5, I'm like, oh, that makes it so difficult.
It started at 27.5. So
I would definitely take the over then.
We're betting USC and then went to 28.5.
I feel like it's a 28-point game.
Something
that feels right.
Funky could happen though if Longstreet's in and the backup offensive line. Like yes, absolutely. So
yeah,
it's hard to predict.
They could turn the ball over a couple times with backup running backs or backup whatever, and then it's a 28-point game at halftime, and they play a couple drives and it's still 28 points, and they turn it over and you play even. It's 10-10 or whatever with the backups. So then that's why it makes it so difficult, and Vegas is usually right. So I'm going to have a hard time actually coming to a decision, but I think that it's going to be USC covering, I think.
I also think they're going to cover. I originally sent in to Ryan that I thought it was going to be 49-14, but I think it's going to be 52-14. So I'm updating my score prediction, but I definitely think USC is going to cover, and they'll have another dominant showing.
Give Ryan Sayre a field goal if he's the kicker again. 49-52. I like it.
Speaking of 49, that was the points that USC scored in the Rose Bowl, and Rose Bowl hero Deontay Burnett will be the tunnel captain this week. So excited to see Deontay. Great kid. I always love talking to him. So I hope to be able to catch up with him before the game too.
How excited are you to be back in the Coliseum, Shotgun?
I'm always excited.
Yeah.
She's a long lost friend that I get to see. It feels like it's been a long time. I only got one game last year, so I'm super excited to go to the tailgates beforehand, see everyone, all that type of stuff. Some people that don't get to travel. I do see a lot of people at the tailgates and the meetups that we have, but I'm amped.
It's going to be a full house. Ryan was sick last week. He's feeling better, so he'll be there. You'll be there. I'll be there. Chris. No India, right?
I'm coming.
Okay,
Yeah.
India too. Riley. Wow.
Karen plugged me with some tickets, so I'll be there
Okay.
amongst the Helton booze.
Okay. Wow.
I'm excited.
We'll see how he's treated. I mean, if they show him on the jumbotron or not, those type of things.
We never got an answer from USC if they were going to do any kind of tribute. So that makes me think no. Not that they would do a tribute, but just any kind of acknowledgement
I
at
doubt
all.
it.
I mean,
Ryan asked, and we didn't get an answer.
what if they were just really savage and did a tribute with
Thanks for nothing.
No,
Right.
not like that, but showed the losses, they did a montage of losses.
The low lights instead of the
No,
highlights.
there's more class in that building than that. But
Sometimes. There are also still some people that are hurt by that period of time.
that's true.
For sure.
But it's not like he's been the only coach since Pete Carroll.
Yeah.
So Lincoln Riley's had 3 years too. He hasn't made the playoffs. He hasn't won.
You
a
can't say that on the
championship.
show. You can't say that on the show.
It could happen this year, especially with the expanded playoffs. USC has an opportunity. They have to keep getting better, and so they're not going to be on the show all season. The offensive line. That's the big.
That's the big question.
Big concern. Some things I saw in that game. You go, oh. Other things. Okay, we'll see.
What'd you think of Wayman Jordan's 26-yard run when Alani Noah pulled and just kind of missed the guy?
I mean, that one. There's two options on that play for Wayman Jordan: is be faster than the guy, and you got to know your opponent, and he was, or you stay patient and you wait, and basically you stay at the quarterback and let Alani Noah cross in front of you. So that's kind of on the running back of being very slow, like King Miller. You take his touchdown run. Similar, John Reed comes and gets that kick out block. The guy's right there though, but King Miller has to wait for Aaron Dunn to cross him, and maybe he tripped him, or maybe it was the knee break. I don't know exactly what it was. Aaron Dunn goes down, but he has to wait for him to cross because his eyes. He's like, I know I got somebody coming here, but he's looking straight ahead and he sees the seas get parting because my brother's got this big block.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Just such an awesome thing. I hope I run into his parents or something.
Yeah, or Dr. Dre, their uncle.
Well, I care less about that. But
That'd
just
be
to
cool.
see, whatever. A celebrity is a celebrity. But I want to see what
To
their
talk about his
I don't
nephews.
care. I want like, what the parents think. You know, I want to see
What about the uncle? He's family too. All right.
I don't know. An uncle can be someone who's very close to the family or not close.
Yeah,
to
Or
the
true.
family.
removed, yeah.
Parents usually are pretty close with their kids.
Usually, typically. Hope so.
Well, with two kids that went to Calabasas and are walking on, I would think so.
I'd agree.
So, I would hope I run into them just to see their reaction to that play and what they, what was their reaction in the stands and stuff.
They're
as
probably
well.
going nuts.
For sure. Well,
Do I close us out because I started us off?
yeah,
India, or
you
do
got it,
wanna-
Connor. I bestow that honor to you again.
Wow, okay. Maybe next time we can switch.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
This will do it for Tunnel Vision. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Connor Morrissette. Shotgun Spratling is here. India Otto
Woo!
here as well.
Applause for
Yes,
Shotgun coming on the show.
Hey, I'll see you guys on our viewers. I'll see you guys on Sunday as well for the show, and then I'll take a red eye back to the East Coast. But hey, one more thing.
Yes.
If you're not a member of the P, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like seriously, what are you doing?
60% off.
60% off right now. You missed out on 75, but that's a one time during the year type of thing. So you better get 60 right now. Is the next best deal, second best deal. But Chris is going to have game day ghost notes with Clay Helton in the building. I bet you there's going to be some really good ones. I say it every time on the Healing Boys, but game day ghost notes is by far at least my favorite thing that we have on the site. And one of the best things, just takes you to the sideline, makes you feel like you're a part of being down there, witnessing, being around the team bench type and everything that kind of goes along with it. He does such a phenomenal job with that piece. But we have so much other VIP content that's going up, as well as just being a member of the Peristyle and getting to argue back and forth with people on your opinions or saying how much you hate me or whatever.
And me. I get that too. Don't worry.
Well, you deserve it. I look better. So, but if you're not a member of the P, it's a great time to sign up and take advantage of that 6% off, and we'll welcome you in with open arms, even if you have terrible takes as well.
You're absolutely right about the ghost notes. There's no other writer, site, group. No one does that. No one else does what Chris does. And that is a reason alone for people to subscribe, and all the other good stuff. The War Room every Friday. Who doesn't want inside information about the USC football program? Before I started working for you guys, I subscribed because I needed to be in the know. And if you're a fan,
Be in the know.
be in the know. There's no better website to do it for. I know we're biased, but that's the
It's
truth. Biased. All right, I guess I got to go back to wrapping it up, right? Okay. Take two on the wrap up. Connor Morrissette, Shotgun Spratling, India Otto. I'm pointing to the people in the studio. It might not look right on camera. Thanks for joining us. Clay Helton and Georgia Southern come into the Coliseum Saturday, 4:30 p.m. kick. If you can't watch it in the Coliseum, the game's on FS1. Hopefully, if you come out to the Coliseum, you'll run into one of us. Please say hello. Thank you for watching Tunnel Vision. As Shotgun said, we'll be back Sunday night for the recap show. Have a good night.